Hey everybody, welcome back to RC with Adam. My name is Adam, and today we're taking a look at the SmallRig vlogging cage for the Insta360 ONE camera. Now, bottom line up front, don't use this cage if you want to use the Insta360 camera in the 360 configuration. Why is that? Well, because you will have, or at least I had, I'll say that, I had small lines, two small lines in the video, and I will show you right now just to get that out of the way. What that looks like, you'll see in this video of the flight footage. If you look at the sky, you'll see that there are some lines in the video, and I believe that is because when we put this in the cage, the angle from the lens, if you look like on the left side, as we're looking at it here, on the left side, the lens is able to clear that edge, but on the right side it sticks out just a little bit too far, like a tiny bit too far, probably, I don't know, maybe a couple millimeters, and then you wouldn't have that issue. So that, to me, that's a big bummer. Adam from the future here. Later in this video, once we talk about the cage, I'm going to show you a way that you can kind of minimize those two line artifacts in your image and maybe improve it, but not totally improve it. Okay, let's continue. Let's get into this. Let's back up here and let's take a look at this more in depth. SmallRig sent this to me because they said, hey, are you interested in taking a look at these products? And I said, yeah, I need a cage for my Insta360 ONE because the original one broke. Because you think, well, why not just use the original? Well, the reason why you wouldn't use the original, we're going to talk about that for a second. It's made out of plastic, which is nice. But I did get smashed into when I was at Rotor Riot Rampage, and that was pretty cool. That was pretty gnarly crash. I was going through this pipe, and then somebody else had the same idea to go through the pipe, except at much higher speeds, and so it just kind of broke this thing apart. I got it to fixed. I got it fixed, but there were some parts that got bent. Let me see if I can. There we go. So like this metal part right here got bent. And I kind of bent it back into shape. You can see it's got scuffed up and that sort of thing. But mostly it's mostly intact. But the problem was it came apart. Actual camera, you know, was a few feet away, and I did not want that. So if we put the camera in the original cage, you can see that it is quite low profile, which is actually something that I really like about this, because the edges are actually lower than the edges of the camera, like that. So that's really important if you're using the 360 function, and I don't like this camera for anything other than 360. I don't even really like it, but it's the only 360 camera that I have. So anyway, I says to myself, well shoot, I can't have my camera, you know, falling out and going anywhere. So I said, I need to get a rig, like a metal rig, like from SmallRig. And it's not going to work for my purposes, unfortunately, in terms of FPV flying. So let's take a look at this thing. So we have no less than 11 quarter 20 mounts. We have 1, 2, 3 on the top, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the side, 8, 9, 10 on the door side, and then 11 on the bottom. We do have these little wing mounts, or whatever they're called, the tab style mounts. So this will fit on a GoPro mount. One thing that I noticed is even when it's tightened on the GoPro mount, you could still have some sort of side-to-side play, or kind of rotational, side-to-side rotational play on there, which I don't really like. As far as I can tell, it's not really an issue, especially with the flow state stabilization. It really cleans that up. Those are held in place with little magnets, so that is a nice feature right there. That's kind of cool. We do have this metal bar right here to add some rigidity. This is made out of some type of aluminum, and it is quite rigid. Seems to be pretty strong. Of course, it'd be stronger when the door is closed, but just to give you an idea, we have a little bit of flex, just like that. And then in terms of the door being closed, you can hear it's kind of wiggly right there. But when we actually put the camera in here, and it only goes in one way, the camera is it's very loose actually. Camera is very loose until we close the door. You see we have this foam padding on the door there. So we close the door, it's got this little latch push that in, you can hear it catch, and then there you go. And I find that once the camera's in there, it's quite sturdy. I guess if you really jarred the camera, if there was a jarring hit to the camera, that could be bad. But otherwise, it's okay. And you can access all of the buttons. So you've got the power button, the record button, and you can even actually access the card slot, although it is kind of tricky. But then again, it's kind of a tricky card slot in the first place. It appears to be, pretty well built, fairly well designed as far as I can tell. You can't see too many machine marks or anything like that. Again, we do have all those quarter 20 mounts. We do have 2 cold shoe mounts, and so that means we can fit like a microphone or anything else that has that style of mount. Same as a hot shoe, except there's no, electrical connections or anything. These are very large though, so you will want to have a way of tightening down whatever item it is that you're putting in this cold shoe. So you're going to want to screw it down and have it like clamp in place, because otherwise it'll just slide all over the place in that cold shoe slot. We also have some small holes, I think maybe like 1/8 inch holes on the frame. I believe they're threaded. I'm not sure what this is for. It might just be for like a machining process, or maybe lock in certain accessories. They do warn you to not take this into salt water, so keep that in mind, because the parts are not salt water resistant basically. But if you put some Corrosion X or WD-40 or something like that on all the metal pieces, you'd probably be okay. And then of course, rinse it off when you're done swimming in the ocean or whatever you're doing. Right now this costs around $45, and so I don't know that I would to me that wouldn't be worth it if I wanted if I wanted this specifically for 360 video. But if you were using it with the standard 4K camera or the 1-inch sensor, which according to photos that will fit like the larger camera lens on here, then this would be, this seems to be very well built. Seems like it would definitely protect your camera and give you a lot of mounting options. But that comes at a price, especially if you plan on flying this thing around like I do. And the price is not just the price of the item. The price is actually the weight of the item. So let's get our scale here. Let's see. For reference, let's use the original mount. 36 grams. Let's see how much this mount weighs. Oh, 105 grams. So that's a lot. That's almost 3 times as much. So yeah, this is really not meant to be flown. Now I have flown this, and it flies okay on my 5-inch rig with a 6-cell battery. It flies all right, but I mean, if we do the camera and the mount, we're looking at 223 grams for the camera and the mount here. And then just to give you some perspective, if we have just a GoPro Hero 9, that's 159 grams. So significant weight increase. Again, you can do it, but it's not super great. Just to demonstrate the GoPro mounting capability, if you have a really large thumb screw, that could be an issue. We have a very small gap. So actually we could do it the other way around. We'll turn this around. With the thumb screw on this side, we have plenty of room right there. So just something to keep in mind right there. One more thing about this that I did not like is that you can't really protect the lens very well, because the lens protector, this rubber lens cover that comes with the camera, it doesn't really fit. Like it kind of fits over the lens. Well, it doesn't really fit from the side. That's what it looks like from the side. From the top, kind of works-ish.
Now, it is possible to minimize those 2 lines caused by the cage, but you are going to be sacrificing potentially image quality because the stitch line might be more visible. Now, here we are in the editor and we're going through these trees here. You don't notice it very much in the trees, but then bam, when we come out of the trees here, we can see these 2 lines, especially when it's moving. So yeah, once you get up there. Now, part of the reason why it's so bad is because of a difference in light. And then the other reason why it's so noticeable is because we have this, blue sky right behind it. So if we go to the right-hand side, you see where it says stitching. on the options stitching. So right now we're set to normal and we're set to dynamic stitching. You want dynamic. If you don't have dynamic, I don't know why you wouldn't want dynamic. It looks like that. It looks like more like a weird little section. So you probably always want dynamic stitching. But if you set it to custom, then it kind of gets rid of those. Now I have it set to custom 2.7. If you do custom 6, which is like the least amount of I guess sort of stitch line removal kind of thing, then you still have those lines. But if you take it down to 0, meaning like it gets rid of that the most, your stitch line is kind of more noticeable because you're kind of, I think it's basically like creating a larger gap that it has to stitch. So if we play this, you can see there's this weird kind of artifact thing going on. And again, part of that is because of the difference in light, but also especially up here, that looks pretty bad, the stitch line there. So if we take the stitching to about 2.6 or something, then we can see that we don't really have any of those lines from the cage, and our seam line, our stitch line, is much better. It's still kind of noticeable, but it's kind of hard to get rid of it completely. And then this will vary depending on the type of lighting that you're in. Now in this environment with all these trees, well, and moving so fast, it's hard to actually see the stitch line. Ooh. Or even those bars there. So if you're in that kind of environment, that might not matter too much. But if you are up higher, like this, actually I'm upside down right now, then that could be an issue. So we can't really see the line. Oh, I'm moving around too much. And then also kind of the angle that the camera is mounted at. So if the camera is vertical or horizontal, that's going to make a difference as well. Let's switch over to this other video. Now here's this other video, which was shot like at almost dusk. I mean, it was the sun had kind of just gone down, so it was kind of dark, you know, granted. So we're gonna have more of a difference in the lighting. So you see, we do have these bars. We also have a lot of like weird stitch ghosting, I'm gonna call it, right at where the seam is, especially towards the horizon. And then also notice that the motor is totally gone from view, and most of the propeller in this, like right along that seam line. So we're set to normal stitching. Let's set it to custom and see what happens. So custom, so this is basically as much correction as you could have. And you can see we don't have those bars anymore, but look at the horizon, or not even the horizon, but just out a ways. It's like, that's a big problem. And again, that could also have to do with how it is mounted, whether it's mounted like really vertical, or if it's kind of tilted forward, or even like mounted horizontally, sort of. And then let's take it to about 2.9. Let's see what we get there. So it's an improvement, kinda. It's definitely an improvement from the 2 bars that we had on there. But if we look at this, and so if we take it back to normal, you see we have those 2 bars again, and notice kind of the angle that we're at there too, just because we're pitched forward. And then let's go back to custom. And so it is much improved, but we still have, like, if you look at the ground there, we have this weird like mark, this line going across it. So yeah, it's not super great, and it kind of depends on your environment and how far away you are from the objects as to whether that will distort them and look really bad. So there you go. If you want to try and clean that up, that's one thing you can do, but it doesn't work in every situation.
So at the end of the day, I think this cage is not really going to do it for me. If you just want a metal cage, you're like, I have to have a metal cage, and it has to have a bunch of 1/4 mounts, this is a great cage for you. But if you want it for flying, or if you are only going to be using the 360 video and you want really, you don't want any artifacts in your video, then this is not the cage for you. But thanks for watching, everybody. You know what? Let's give this one away. I'm going to give this one away because I'm probably just never going to use it, to be totally honest with you. So if you live in the continental United States, sorry everyone else, leave a comment down below indicating that you would like to have this cage, and I will use a random comment picker to pick your comment in 1 week from the posting of this video. So do that, and you might get this thing, and I will send it to you free of charge. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a great day, and I will see you again on the next one. Oh my gosh.
I mean, we get bars in our goggles that show